As fast as this arc of Black Clover hit us, it is easy to forget how few of the story's mainstays we have really spent time with. Most of Asta's squad do not know what happened to him yet, and that is about to change. It is time for a check-in with the rest of the Black Bulls and a lot more information on Asta's strange situation. We open Black Clover chapter 337 with the Black Bull headquarters. After everything we have been through, coming back to the ramshackle mansion is downright nostalgic. They are all outside for some reason, but the whole squad is just as they always were. Everyone's having a great time, just relaxing. There's no war, not even an assignment for them at the moment. Magna is throwing explosions left and right, down to train his hardest against Luck. The lightning mage is dodging through the air, laughing without a care in the world. Klaus is yelling at them to keep it down, so he can concentrate on his darling Marie's latest letter. Charmy is trying to end the fight so everyone can go inside and have supper. So she is just as food focused as she always has been. Surprisingly, it is Gray who tries to call the meeting to order. She yells out at her squad, telling them plaintively that Vice Captain Knot told them to be quiet. He has likely just come back from the capital with news of what has happened. Magna, however, has no time for this. He outright dismisses Noct, viewing him as a disgrace to the Black Bulls. How Magna came to that conclusion is a bit unclear. Not liking Noct is one thing, but how does he disgrace what was once the Clover Kingdom's most disreputable Magic Knight squad? Is he just insufficiently quirky to fit into their regular dynamic? An off-panel blow from the blonde mage stops him talking and gives Noct the time to tell his foolish squad to listen up. He brings them all inside, perhaps afraid of being overheard, before dropping the news. Asta is dead. The squad can't believe the news, at least not when delivered that bluntly. Noct, in a moment of pedantry, decides to be precise about it. He goes over what happened point by point. Asta was mortally wounded, then targeted by spatial magic cast by an enemy, entirely disappearing thanks to the spell. Under those circumstances, it is only logical to assume that he is very, very dead. Henry seems angry at the news, while Gordon is as outwardly impassive as usual. Still, we know the Cursed Mage well enough to tell he is reeling. Charmy is plain shocked, perhaps even on the verge of tears. Even Zora seems upset by this. Gray has her hands over her mouth, already crying her eyes out, trembling that this just can't be true. Even Klaus looks shaken to hear that Asta's gone. It's rare to see something penetrate his Marie-loving facade like this. That's before we get to the combat duo, probably the team's most over-emotional members of all. Luck's eyes are wide, his face set. It's always hard to tell if he's sad or angry. Perhaps he's a bit of both. It's not easy for Luck to process the consequences of fighting. Magna seems straight up distraught, though he tries to hide it beneath his anger. He claims that he will never forgive Asta if he went off and died alone. After how much pain and suffering the Black Bulls have gone through as a squad, the idea of a member just suddenly dying one day, with none of his friends at his side, is quite a shock. It's something that can't feel real to Magna. They faced everything together, haven't they? Noct remains impassive to Magna's words. Ever since he became a Magic Knight, the remaining Foss twin has always tried to be a practical, logical man. He keeps that up in the face of Magna's anger, stating a simple truth. Regardless of anyone's feelings, facts are indisputable. He won't even try to argue with them. However, for as logical as he is, Noct is human. And finally being honest with the Bulls, he admits a deeper truth. No matter what the facts say or the odds in question, Noct simply can't believe that Asta is dead. After everything they went through in the Spade Kingdom together, the idea that the young swordsman just went down like that doesn't seem right to the Vice Captain. As such, he is trusting his gut over his head. This gets a wide grin from Magna. Those are words that he can agree with, even if they come from Noct. The whole squad calls out in chorus that there is no way Asta could be dead. It is a rallying moment for the Black Bulls. Everyone's set and sure that their friend must have survived. Gordon even takes his hat off to emphasize the point. Zora and Klaus seem a bit less enthusiastic, and Gray is struggling with her emotions, but all three feel the same. They trust in Asta. There is fire in the eyes of the front row. You'd expect that from Magna and Luck, but the whole squad is just as sure of their friend. Vanessa, Finral, and even Charmy look ready to fight to take their friend back. Noct notes that it seems to be unanimous. He's grinning once again, though this looks different. His eyes half closed, his mouth more a crescent. It calls to mind his old delinquent devil host days. Not the habitual fake polite smile he usually goes with. It's an honest look from someone happy to be leading this band of fools and misfits. Taking command of the squad, he leads them out of the manor on a search to go and find that idiot named Asta. The Black Bulls are all too happy to listen to their vice captain, proudly marching out to go and rescue their friend for whatever trouble he's gotten himself into this time. And it is here that Asta finally wakes up, eyes wide. He is indeed not dead. Slowly pulling himself upright, the young Black Bull takes a look around. His surroundings have to seem alien to him. Paper walls, sliding doors, plus he's now wearing a strange robe. While we can recognize the Japanese aesthetic, Asta can't have imagined a place like this during his time in the Clover Kingdom. Looking behind him, the young Black Bull sees that one of the doors has just opened. A small figure enters the room, her footsteps making a strange metallic sound, like she was wearing heavy armor. She is carrying a tray bearing a solitary porcelain cup. She is small, looking a lot like Charmy, but wears a similar robe to Asta's and has two lines running beneath her mouth. She seems to be some sort of automaton. A fact this not Charmy proves by unhinging her mouth and spitting a gushing flow of hot steaming liquid into the cup, all while singing merrily. She hands it to Asta before withdrawing, her job seemingly done. Asta is understandably taken aback by this bizarre stranger, plus likely a little grossed out by her behavior. A sniff of the liquid is enough for him to identify it as tea, however. That's almost enough to make this make sense. Someone came in and gave him tea, more or less. A new voice chimes in, laughing happily at Asta's stupefied look. It makes you wonder if he called in the server just to see how the young magic knight would react. The stranger explains that this is a tea-serving doll, as though this was the most common thing in the world. They must be relatively well known in this strange place. Looking across a room at the new voice, Asta sees the figure we met in silhouette at the end of the last chapter. While it was unclear there, here we can tell that yes, this stranger looks almost exactly like Yami. The main difference is in the facial hair. This new arrival tries to shave, but is seemingly a bit less well presented than the Black Bull's captain. That, and he has a jaunty looking eye patch. Still, he is friendly enough, asking Asta how he's doing like this was all perfectly natural. Asta, in a surprisingly sharp moment for someone who only just woke up and was confronted by a tea-spitting robot, catches that. This stranger knows his name? He asks the stranger outright how he knows him, also wanting to know who this mysterious savior is. Before not Yami, Before Yugi can answer, Asta remembers something else important. The fact that the last memory he has is of his near-death fighting Lucius and Sister Lily. He looks down at his chest where the sisters' magic slash at him, only to see that his wound has indeed healed. Now there is only a scar left. This is a shock to Asta. That was a very bad wound. The only healer he knows who could have done something like this is Mimosa, but this is very clearly not the Clover Kingdom. He looks over to his savior, asking if he was the one who healed the wound. The strange man admits he didn't, claiming that a friend of his was responsible. Apparently, the fact that he doesn't have healing magic is funny to Yami's doppelganger. Starting to remember things bit by bit, Asta asks about Libe, finally noticing that his devil is no longer with him. Which is interesting given that his hand still seems to be intact. Libe probably can't be far. Asta is about to identify his brother as a devil before realizing that this might not be a very good idea. Devils aren't well liked after all. Instead, he tries to describe his companion, asking for a tiny black thing. Not Yami or Yugi sees right through this, however. He knows that Libe is a devil and doesn't even pretend to care. He explains that Asta's brother is also being fixed up currently and probably also being offered tea. Asta is surprised that this stranger knows about devils, let alone is able to heal one. Still, his ki doesn't seem to be hostile. Finally taking a swig of tea, he repeats his question from earlier. Who is this strange man? He also asks if he somehow knows Charmy, still not quite over the doll thing. After all, he doesn't see people who look like that every day. The stranger, smiling, focuses on the second part. He admits that he does not know Charmy, but he is very familiar with Yami. Apparently, they have known each other since childhood. We get a better look at his eye patch here and can make out some kind of design on it, perhaps a local symbol. Asta's focus, however, is on the news that this strange man is Captain Yami's childhood friend. He's got to be imagining this guy's ties to Yami being like his relationship with Yuno. Asta actually knows that even his ki seems similar to Yami's. Yugi here starts to get nostalgic, musing that he hasn't seen Yami since he was 13. He asks Asta if the captain still takes long dumps, chuckling at the memory. There are stars in Asta's eyes at that. He's likely overcome by the revelation that yes, this man really does know the captain that well, but still, what a moment for that starstruck look. The stranger continues to reminisce about young Yami. Apparently, even before he left his homeland, he was pretty much the person we know today. He has always had a mean look in his eyes, was prone to violence, and quick with the hands. Asta is taken aback to learn that the captain was just like that even before he turned 13. I'm not sure what he expected though. The idea of Kid Yami being more friendly and less violent seems downright bizarre. Not Yami continues happily sharing memories, this time getting into his old friend's weaknesses. Apparently, Yami has always had a fear of bugs. Even showing him one was enough to make him turn pale as a kid. This puts his rivalry with Jack into a funny light, given the other captain's squad were the green praying mantises. Asta can't believe it. He admits that even if it was true, he is far too scared of Yami's wrath to pull a stunt like that. Interestingly, we get a panel here of not Yami's assistant. She has been standing behind him for a good portion of the scene, but this is the first time that we properly see her face. And she does not seem amused by this topic of discussion. Her eyes are narrow, and she looks like she is fighting not to scowl at the two men. Is she just annoyed that her boss doesn't seem to be taking this situation seriously? Or does she have some kind of personal connection to Captain Yami? Could she be a relative even? Regardless, she says nothing for the moment. And Asta comes to a quick realization. He is just talking to this guy casually while everything is still going horribly wrong in the Clover Kingdom. After all, he lost that fight. Lucius Ograta still exists, Sister Lily is still a paladin, and some kind of terrifying war is probably going to go on in his homeland right now. Asta thanks not Yami for helping him, but he makes it clear right away that he cannot stay. Even if he doesn't know where he is, he needs to get back home, and quickly. He has to help. He has to take down Lucius and save everyone. The stranger tells him not to be in such a hurry, completely unruffled by this. He points out that even though he is healed, Asta still isn't in great shape. Still, not Yami understands how his guest feels. He lays events out for Asta, well aware of everything that happened. He didn't just lose a fight, he was nearly killed by two people he really valued. Sister Lily, the woman he loves, and the Wizard King, the man he aspired to become, who he has spent years looking up to. Beyond even the emotional pain, Asta has to be reeling at the emotional hurt of what he went through during that fight. Asta asks the stranger how he knew all that. He didn't just know what had happened physically. He knew enough of Asta's story and feelings to get the context to everything that happened. Not Yami takes a second, seemingly pondering if he should answer that question. Ultimately, however, he decides to share. He taps on his eye patch, claiming that learning stuff like this is no big deal to him. He can see whatever he wants to, as easy as that. And he has seen something more important than Asta's history. Somehow, his eye can see the future. And he knows that if Asta goes back to the Clover Kingdom as he is right now, he will definitely die. This is enough to spook Asta. He goes ghostly pale as soon as he hears those words. And to be fair to not Yami, he's got a good point here. Even without his Sharingan-based foresight magic or whatever, just looking at Asta's last battle made that pretty clear. Lucius had an almost undeniable edge on him even before transforming Sister Lily. Time magic on its own is hard to counter. Lucius also has soul magic and his purified devil host abilities. Just charging face first at this problem won't be enough. And for once, Asta can accept that. Normally he would try to rally his squad, have them help him, but even bringing along his friends might be a bad idea this time. Lucius could just make more paladins from them. A regular attack from the Black Sword isn't enough to undo a devil host binding. Asta has no answer just yet. Plus, as Not Yami points out, this is all a moot point anyways. Asta can't get home with his own power regardless. Asta starts to ask what he meant by that, but the retainer who was scowling at them earlier steps in. She walks past Asta, and we can see she has a sword at her side. She is clearly more than a servant. The strange woman goes to a double door, pushing both halves open wide with force. And with that, she reveals exactly where Asta has ended up. The Land of the Sun. Homeland of Captain Yami, the mysterious far-off nation that he was washed away from so many years ago. We get a gorgeous panning shot of the capital as seen from the window of Asta's room. There are leaves blowing in a gentle breeze over the street as the people happily go about their day. And this revelation presents Asta with his biggest problem. The Land of the Sun is indeed very far away from the Clover Kingdom. Yami was never able to return there after all. Given that Noct admitted last chapter that Asta was out of range for his magic, it must take a very powerful spell to cross that particular gap. It is impressive that the kingdom has magic potent enough to outdo Noct's abilities, given that he can cross an entire continent. Not Yami finally shares his name with Asta now. His name is Ryuda. And apparently, despite his scruffy appearance, he is actually this kingdom's shogun. He points out that Asta has come all this way, so he might as well try to get a power-up while he's here. And it seems like he has something in mind. Perhaps training to improve his swordsmanship. Perhaps some kind of artifact to enhance his bond with Libe. And with that promise, we complete the chapter. We've got a few firm plot threads going on now. Asta's training with Ryuda and friends in the Land of the Sun. Lucius' battle with Yuno, and the Black Bulls led by Noct searching for Asta. Will we be sticking with these three threads next chapter, or will we see some other plot? Notably, we haven't seen what Noelle, Sekirei, and Yami were getting up to while Noct was rallying the bulls. So in the comments, let us know what particular plot thread you want to see the most, and which one you want to see the least. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.